Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
We have our 27th Q&A here, and we have some really good questions. And let's start off with this one. This is from an anonymous Patreon. I had stumbled upon a few readings from Daniel's books on Ida and Pingula. He described the chakras according to the researchers of truth will be on the right and left side, and that a lesson was taught during one of the seminars. I was wondering if you guys could explain how to train in Ida and Pingula. Well, Ida and Pingula are the Hindu names for the two currents of energy that go up the spine. And you see them on the caduceus. That's a symbol of health. And these two wings come out of the top of the caduceus. So what we do is we have an exercise called an archangelic attunement exercise, where you create a triangle on the floor and you bring the red currents up, and the golden flames up your legs, and it energizes those two currents, and they go up the spine. Well, they actually go out into the side and the left chakras, as you just mentioned. So that one is, there's several versions of that, but if you get that exercise, you can get it on stoaseries.com. That's the one of how you train to use them, to awaken them. You want to go there, and then we'll do the next?
No, let's go one by one.
I felt a rush of joy when I read in Daskalos's book on the symbol of life that these currents can effectively burn out elementals lying around. Yeah, definitely. And it's part of the burning karmic debt exercise too. And you want to burn karma off. Of course, the elementals are totally associated with karma. I've been introduced to Ida and Pingula before by a tantric, but I've never seen the power and beauty behind them until I read this work. Yeah, it's a very powerful exercise, and it really cleans you out. It really cleans out things in you. And of course, we don't really try to awaken the Kundalini, which is the third current of energy that goes up the spine. But we can do some energizing exercises, and it's included in this archangelic attunement exercise. And we also have an archangelic attunement where you use a four-sided pyramid. That's not the one we're talking about. We're talking about the one with the three-sided triangle, golden triangle on the ground, and you stand in the middle and then bring the currents up.
Done? No, let's go one by one. Yes. Actually, the chakra, what we call center, is everywhere in our body. But in this teaching system, we have 10 chakras, 10 centers. Maybe I should use the symbol. We can see it at the back. No, this is the number one. And in the middle pillar, we have 3 pillars or columns or path. And this is number one on the top, great triangle. But along with the middle column, we have 3 centers, 3 chakras. And on the left side, we have 3 centers and chakras. On the right side, we have 3 centers or chakras. So what we do in the exercise, like Father Yohanan said, all the centers are the churches. So churches which means all kind of elementals, good or bad, are gathering in our centers. And this is divine, but this is mundane. Those are the mundane centers. So in each chakras, in each centers, lots of miscellaneous good and bad elementals are here. So usually we have energy current without doing anything. We originally have energy current in our bodies, but in this current, we can't cleanse all elemental which is in and around our centers. So we consciously, purposely create the current consciously. in the exercise and wash away, clean up all kind of old elements, as you say. Uh, at once, we repeat this exercise again and again. We have exercises in the Hercules, labor of Hercules, called the stables of Augeas. We have so many different kinds of exercises to cleanse the elementals in each sentence. And also, as he mentioned, in the exercise of archangelic form, we create a golden light, golden flame from right side and left side, and the cleanse. The flame pass through each center, which means cleanse or unnecessary elementals. And maybe, yeah, so many exercises. We create a red flame and violet flame, red flame on the right side, violet flame on the left side. So we will work on it step by step.
The second question is, can you teach us how to do exematosis, which means out-of-body experience? It means a conscious out-of-body experience. Taking in vitality from the psychical, and it says noetic, but it means noetical worlds. And how did we do manifestations of our dreams? How do we manifest our dreams? Well, Nascos gives a number of, actually all the practices are leading up to that exematosis, out-of-body experience. Dasclus will give you some very specific ones. And then he says, how long will it take for you to achieve it? He goes, it depends. It totally depends. It depends on you. It depends on how ready you are. Because it's not necessarily a blessing just to come out of your body. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be even dangerous. Sometimes you can not get back in your body. So what's most important is to develop our self-awareness, to uplift our self-awareness so that we're expressing more and more from life, more and more from our inner self. That's the most important thing, because if you do this as a personality, I mean, you can have that experience as a personality, but it's kind of dangerous because you're much more powerful out of your body than you are in your body. So if you don't clean up your negativity, your resentments, your issues with people, when you go out of your body and you say you have somebody you have an issue with and you don't like it, and there's a conflict, you get out of your body and you think that thought, or you think on those feelings you have for them, those become super empowered and can really harm the person, and thus the karma will harm you back. Even though you don't mean to, you just have ill will in your heart and mind. And when you're out of your body, it becomes a much stronger thing. So we really want to clean up our body first. And then there are very specific exercises. You have to learn how to concentrate and hold your attention on one point for a long time without thoughts coming in and disturbing. Just try it. Just try sitting down for 30 seconds without any thoughts disturbing your mind, and hold your gaze on one point, or hold your mind on one principle, let's say. That's one of them. Another one is the ability of visualization. Daskal stressed visualization more than anything else, and that's because it's vital in all of our raising of our consciousness, developing our self-awareness, or unfolding our self-awareness, as well as the practice that is like exematosis. So we have to be able to see an object and really, just without doing a lot of thinking on it, just observe and almost like take a photograph. You are taking a photograph. And then once you visualize it, you close your eyes and you bring back that image that was imprinted on your subconscious. So the visualization is to restore that image that you've been staring at with your physical eyes. And you see every detail, as much detail as possible, the textures, the colors, the way the light hits certain parts of it. There's an endless amount of detail in the smallest little thing you can observe. When you get that skill, that's another important skill. And the other one is just as sort of a general thing is you ought to be able to stop thinking. Not think about a point, not think about anything, but just stop your thinking. And if you can do that, great power comes there, because really what's holding us back? Undisciplined mind, undisciplined emotions. When we sit to meditate and we have this thought, we're going to focus on this thing and create this visualization, and a stream of other thoughts come in. Well, we're not going to get very far until we master that, to be able to shut that door from our subconsciousness where all these images come forward to disturb us once we set our intention to do something like this. So there's just a lot of work. Everything we're teaching will lead up to that.
Thank you. First of all, we have so many levels of out of body experiences, OBE, exosomatosis, so many levels and so many kinds. And the level is first level is get out of our material body and be with the higher bodies and more, right? And the second level is we get out of the psychical body and be with act with the higher body, noetical body, and higher state. And then at the end, we will get out of the noetical body, which means and go into the state of light, noetic state. So like this way, we have levels of exosomatosis. But I believe what you ask in this question is how to train us to get out of our material body, right? I read in the teaching, Daskalos met so many people ask the same question as you asking here, what to do, how to do the practice of the exosomatosis. As Daniel says, all of our exercises is for the training to get out of our body, because we breathe and we create our light body using the mind etheric light, and transfer our self-consciousness in it. And in that visualization, in the visualization which we create, we act, we move, and we experience, right? This is a kind of the training of the exosomatosis already. For example, Daskal said, the training exercise for, which is called the healing hand. We just visualize the elemental of our hand and bring it up and transfer our self-consciousness in it. That's why in the exercise we again and again, we many times hear the word feel, being there. So we transfer our self-consciousness in it and experience in the hand or in the body, whole body. So it's the same principle, same function. So little by little, please work on it. Create. First of all, we have to have a proper knowledge about ether, and using a proper breathing, and create your light body and transfer your self-awareness, self-consciousness in it, and move around, experience in that body. This is the good training for the conscious exosomatus. Actually, we are doing that already in this process. And we have another exercise, maybe taking 20 days. First 10 days, we just observe what we, first 10 days, we observe what we have around our environment. And on the 10th day, we just leave our body on the bed. And with our psychomoetical body, try to observe, try to do the exactly same process. And make a note, and we repeat this process another 10 days. This is one of the good out of body exercises. It's available also in the store series.
Okay. I just want to say one other thing that in the beginning, you try to work on these things. So Desclus is saying, hold your concentrate on a physical point outside yourself and hold it steady without being disturbed by other thoughts for as long as you want. You can set it for 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever is comfortable for you. Then the second one is you just close your eyes. You don't do anything. You don't count your breaths. You don't attend to anything. You don't visualize. You just try to sit in the silence. And the silence means you're not hearing your own dialogue, that internal dialogue. You have to silence that. Become skillful at visualization and try to understand something about what's life. Where are we? What's happening? Understand it. He says if you do those three things in time, you'll find yourself just automatically out of your body. You won't have to do this X, Y, and Z. You'll find yourself out of your body. Also, the masters like Dasclus will come and help you if you're trying to go this way. And they will take you out of your body when you're not really skillful enough to do it consciously. Now, of course, we're all having an out-of-body experience every time we go to sleep at night. That's subconscious out-of-body experience. But we're talking about a conscious out-of-body experience here.
Yeah, and I would like to add one more thing. You mentioned about the taking in the vitality from the psychical and the noetical, maybe noetical world. You asked us this. When it happens, probably you can see at the beginning after getting out of the body. It depends on person, but usually we can see. But please be patient and don't get panic and calm down and breathe and try to use your willpower. Then slowly, we will be able to see the environment and also our body. So once it happens, don't get panic. Use your willpower and observe what is going on. Then you will be able to see.
The other thing is that when you find yourself out of your body, you're most likely going to be in your home. And it's recommended you don't try to get outside. Don't try to go outside because you're not strong enough yet. You need to get the skill and get to, figure out, I'm just in a psychoanalytical body. You need to get the skill out of it. So he recommends not going outside until you feel strong. Daniela is asking, hey, Daniela, how do we drink water to nourish our bodies? That's the first question. Well, of course, you drink the water, but it's really you'd be surprised. It has a lot to do with what you're thinking about that water is. For example, if you're a real fanatic and you get reverse osmosis water and alkaline, all this kind of special smart waters or whatever, and you drink it, but you have bad feelings or you think negatively, that water is not it's going to turn to poison or it's going to turn against you. It's not going to be pure water. But if you have this thought and you really try to get the water clean and pure and you really want it to nourish your body, that's an intention. That's an intention you're setting, both consciously and subconsciously at the same time. And that has a great deal to do with how nourished we get by water or any of the food we're drinking. You can have the most purest food, but if you got bad vibes in your heart, that food is not going to be, it's going to be contaminated, basically, by your energy. You want to answer that first, or should we go through all three?
Let's go one by one. Okay. My advice is first appreciation. The reason why appreciation is important is when we appreciate automatically, without our knowing, this energy, this power, glorify the source of the element or energy. It happens. So whatever you take, and only the water, in this case, when you take the water nourishes your body, you're already very much nourished by it. Each cell and each particle of your body is pleasing. And as we know, element of water is Archangel Gabriel. So just visualize the color or the vibration, the sound, appreciate the guardian, appreciate Archangel Gabriel, then it automatically nourish your body.
One other thing I'll add to that is that there's something the Essenes used to do. Of course, the Essene community in Israel was about a third of all of the Israelites. They weren't Jews. They were somebody who threw the Jewish eye for an eye and revengeful God out. And they worshiped the one true spirit God who is benevolent and loving. And Christ was born into the Essene communities in Nazareth. But what they used to do is they would take water out and put it in something and set it in the sun and ask the angel of the sun and the angel of the water to join. In other words, it's charging it up, right? And then they drank it. I believe that's a very good practice. I've tried that, and it really does have an effect. So you might try that.
Daniel, you will like it. Love it.
The second question is, why is Aki calling these names in the three centers in the last introspection meditation? Not sure what she called them, but I think she should answer that question.
Probably. Maybe. Oh, first time I go first. And if you want to answer something extra, please.
Thank you.
Okay, Daniela, I think you mentioned about the three-sided pyramid meditation as the part of the introspection exercise. The exercise we attune with the divine nature and the three-sided pyramid. And each side, I said the word at the beginning. I said probably, Allah, Elohim, Shekinah, or Shekinah, or Shekinah, which means, and the left side. And the right side, I said Allah El Shaddai. And the back side, I said only Allah. I said, this means, I believe your question is this. This is the three nature of absolute infinite beingness. I'm sorry, I didn't say the meaning of it. This is the language of Aramaic language. I said it in Aramaic. Allah, Shekinah, or Shekinah is the God, Holy Spirit. And Allah El Shaddai, which means God, the Lord. And Allah is God the Father. In Aramaic, the Father is called Abba, the God, Allah, Abba, or just Allah means God the Father. So I purposely didn't explain in the meditation because I just like to, it's kind of ultimate state of feeling the nature of God in each side. So I just like to say it as the vibration. But the meaning is the language of Aramaic. And this is the meaning is what I explained now.
The other thing I will add to that is that what she's describing is about the three natures of God. God's one. There's three expressions or three manifestations. Expressions, I think, is better. But it's one God. So they're the name of God, but they're not three different gods. So that's important to know. And also it's important to know that everything has these three elements. And of course, instead of deifying it with names of God, we can also just speak about the powers involved in it, which is total wisdom, total love, and total power. Total wisdom of God, total love of the Son of God, Christ Logos, the El Shaddai, or the total power of the Holy Spirit. So these are in everything. But here's the problem. Everywhere you look out there in the natural world, those things are balanced. Everywhere you look in man's world, they are unbalanced. So our work here is about bringing them into balance in ourselves. This is the same as creating the three sons of light. That's balancing those three aspects, basically. So keep in mind that this is a trinity and it's perfectly in balance. And it's perfectly in balance in all God's creation except for man. Well, why not in man's world? Because he's given us free will, and we're starting from a very low level of consciousness, working up till our will matches that divine will, till our proportions of these elements.
Very important. That's why in the exercise we stand in the middle point to create a perfect unity and harmony. So three nature of God is not a separated one. It's perfect balance and in unity. Please remember that.
Mario is asking about guardian angels. He says some people report having 2 to 4 spirits around them, assuming they are either guardian angels or previous life relatives, sometimes encountering them during catastrophic moments. Are these living angelic elementals of previous incarnations of that person, or are they relatives, or just imagination, or looking for your thoughts? Yeah, it depends on the people. We have one true guardian archangel, which has been unified with us since our first incarnation, will be with us until we no longer need him. So it's just one of those. But we have other spirit guides. We have, it could be family members, but family members don't really know how to do this. So what you're dealing with in the family member is the angelic elemental of that family member. But there's also another one that can be, like if you're a writer, or if you're a carpenter, or you're anything. Those spirits, human beings who've passed over, are attracted. Say they were a writer too, so they're going to attract to writers, and they try to help them. They try to encourage them. They try to inspire them. So it could be one of those too. And if you have teachers that you've like Daskalos, they come too, and they help you. Our ability to perceive that is a different story. That depends on where we are, but they are definitely there, even in ordinary people doing ordinary things, and you can develop it quite heavily. And in fact, during the Renaissance, the master composers, or not the Renaissance, but the master composers, Beethoven, Mozart, all those guys that created all this beautiful music, they were actually getting it from above. Beethoven knew, he was somewhat aware of this process, but he didn't quite understand. But Mozart actually knew, and that's why both of them they just heard the music and they just wrote it down. They didn't sit there and work it out. They heard it and then they wrote the notes. This was the spirit guides helping them. Okay, let's see. Yeah. So it could be any of those things. But, I've heard some people lately say, oh, we have multiple guardian angels. You might think that if you count brother spirit guide, a guardian, but it's just one true guardian archangel. And he is from the highest order, Metatron. And it's out of God's love. God doesn't just send us into this crazy world without help. We have a lot of help. And we also have 4 other archangels that accompany us. We'll talk about some other time.
Yep. For each one of us, please remember, each one of us, we have one guardian angel attending all through our incarnations. And also, we have archangels of elements in our bodies. All together, this is a kind of team, from the beginning of our incarnation until the end of our incarnation. It's a team attending with us. But they are the archangels, not the elementals. So this is one part. But beside those archangels, we have archangelic elementals. We have guides and helpers. It can be elemental, archangelic elementals from them, or themselves. And the guides and helpers sometimes changes, depends on our expression. For example, if we change the occupation, and maybe the guides might be changed. So it depends on our expression. They sometimes change. And they can be from our family lineage or from anywhere. It can be anywhere. And what else? Yeah, it can be it can be angelic elementals from previous incarnations and also these incarnations. We created, protecting. Sometimes we could create protecting archangel. Protecting angel for someone, and send it as elemental. So it can be from the past life, or it can be from this lifetime. So, yeah. So please remember, we are not alone. We are not abandoned. We are always being helped, being attended by at least those archangels and guides and helpers. The number of guides and helpers varies, depends on person. That's it.
Okay. Wayne is asking, as I grow in understanding of elementals, I can see so clearly how I'm enslaved to many powerful elementals that I have created or inherited and continue to energize. Elementals of fear, anxiety, and depression. And even though they cause me pain and suffering, I am somehow addicted to them. I know I should disenergize them through inattention and create angelic elementals instead, but I feel so powerless. I see them taking this precious life force from me. Introspection makes it clear, but I still don't know how to overcome these human in nature demons. Do you have any advice? Yes, we do. There's only really one way to do this. And of course it's inattention, but there's really three steps to this whole thing. Okay. The first step is the hardest step, and it's probably going to take you the longest to get the unconflicted decision not to energize them, not to follow them, not to indulge in them. You know it here, but now you have to will it. And I don't mean your personality's will, because that your personality's will ends up struggling with the elemental, which just feeds it. So what you want is like the will of the inner self to come out and say, I don't want this anymore. I'm done with this. I want to be free. That's the first step. And like I said, it takes a long time. Sometimes you'll feel like you've made that decision, but in the next thing you know, you're indulging in the elemental again. And that just means that you haven't really got that first unconflicted decision. It has to be unconflicted. You can't feel like you want to do that good thing one time, but then later you don't want to do it. That's a conflicted decision. So that's not going to work. You have to get an unconflicted decision. The second step, once you get that, the second step isn't that hard. And that is just, like you said, disenergizing, which is what? Well, when you feel fear, you don't energize. You don't go into it and go, oh, I'm so afraid. What's happening? Or something like that. You don't indulge in the anxiety. You just stop it. And this is where most people fail. The third step. They may try to stop energizing it. They say it may feel they've come to an unconflicted decision. But most people don't succeed because they don't do the third step. And the third step is to replace it with something positive, something life affirming. Here's a stupid example, but let's say after work you go drink a bunch of beers before you come home. Well, stop saying, okay, I'm going to go home, I'm going to meditate. Replace it with something positive. And it's going to be a struggle. There's going to be a little feeling of pulls both ways. But once you get that, and once you get that in place, there's no place for that old elemental to come back in. Because if you leave its place empty, it'll just come back in. It's like I don't know what to say, but it's like a groove. And it's such a habit. It's just like you fall in the groove and you say, oh, here I'm doing the groove thing again. Here I'm repeating the old elemental habit again. I don't want this. I want to replace it. So you stop doing that and do something else. If you just stop doing that, it'll come back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wayne? So the questions of Wayne. Okay, Wayne. Yes. Well, it is exactly what you say. I totally agree with what you say. That's why we have the labor of Hercules. We consciously and continuously work on annihilate our human demon in us, what we call egotism. We have to work on that. As Daniel mentioned, in a practical way, step by step, one, two, three, right? But the important thing is we have to work on that very consciously and continuously with faith. Daskar says we need to do the labor of Hercules at least for 5 years, again and again and again. So we need the patience and we need to work on it, step by step, slowly, consciously, and continuously. And along with these labors, we are practicing introspection, right? Observe everything from the higher viewpoint. Also, we practice it, in the labor with Hercules. Of course, we do that. But in a daily base, we are practicing introspection. So, together with the labor of Hercules and the introspection exercise, that's going to be we will be able to create a mighty power, combining those two. And at the end, one day, we will be able to reach the state, what Descartes called nothing matter much. The most of the things doesn't matter at all. We can see and observe and experience things, without being influenced by the other ones, emotions and thoughts or behaviors, or by our own, from our own. And without missing nothing matter much, most of the things doesn't matter at all, but without missing anything important. So everything is observed in a perfect way. We will be able to reach that state by combining the labor of Hercules and also introspection. So I'm thinking after this introspection series in Patreon, I'm thinking to start in the practical exercise to work on our elementals. So we will work on it. Maybe from May we will start it.
Okay. Next question is from Anastasia. I'm new, so I have 3 questions. Do you guys use the Merkaba? Merkaba, whatever. So yeah, let's go right to the top. The way Daskalos describes it is when a spirit, eternal spirit being, is ready to incarnate, to become humanized, they pass through the human idea archetype, the human form, and it gives them the human form. And at that moment, the permanent atom is created. And the radiance from the permanent atom creates the spirit body. Now, this is all in the noetic plane. We're not in the worlds of existence here. We're still up in the worlds of beingness. And so this permanent atom's radiance creates what Daskalos calls the spirit body, not the spiritual body, the spirit body, which is the Merkaba. Now, of course, the question is really not perfect, because she's asking, can you give some tips on how to use it practically? Well, first of all, you as a personality can't use your Merkaba. This is like the soul, So Daskalos many times he'd been in front of audiences who had doctors in divinity. He had the highest doctor of divinity on the island, the equivalent of the archbishop. So these religious people ask him, do we have a soul? And Daskalos says, definitely, you do not have a soul. You are a soul that has a body. So our whole thought about this, oh, how do I use that Merkaba? You don't as a personality. You're not capable of using it as a personality. As the soul self, yes, of course, that's your garment. But let me get this last part. Yeah, you don't use it for eczematosis. It's much above the bodies you use for eczematosis. And then she says, cause we need to spine the noetic body to the left and the psychical body to the right in specific ratios of 34:21. Now, I don't know what she means by 34:21. And it's not the noetic body, it's the noetical body and the psychical body. But really, the most effective way is to balance them is to simply to do the three suns exercise, because the blue sun at the solar plexus represents the physical sun, the rosy pink one at the heart center represents our emotional body, and the golden one or canary yellow is our noetic color body symbolized. So when we do that exercise, we do balance them in perfect proportions. That's the most effective way to do it. You want to do that, and then I'll do the next one?
No, let's go one by one.
That's what I'm saying. Would you like to go now?
Of course, yes. Merkaba. Please check the Christ book, the book of Joshua Emmanuel, the Christ. He says in the Christ book, Merkaba, the divine mind light body. Divine mind light body, and it's violet light, violet flame. Merkaba as the old Egyptian word, and the mer, first mer means love. Ka means the body, like body, and ba means soul, which symbolizes the stork, the bird, the bird called stork, symbolizes the stork. So those three words combined, which means an Aramaic, an Egyptian word, divine light body, and in Egyptian, love, the body, and the soul. So when we reach self-realization, we use this as the vehicle, and it is spinning very, very fast. That's why it's going to be the protection, perfect protection. But it's for the people who reach the self-realization. So until then, we use the vehicle called five-pointed star. So Merkaba is the vehicle of our soul reaching to the state of self-realization already. And we have the exercise to create a six-pointed star, not the Merkaba. And in the exercise, we don't spin but from ourselves. I will tell you the reason why we don't. We create the six-pointed star. We have some exercises to create six-pointed star in the right place. And we fill in aesthetic vitality, mind light, and we just, as the first step, we create a six-pointed star around our body or around our body, and put the energy, life energy in it. Then eventually the experience will happen. It will spin, we will experience it, but it depends on the person. How you experience depends on the person and how deep you work on it. So we don't try to turn it from at the beginning, from ourselves. No, we will create the six-pointed star around our body, and they do it again and again, then one day that will happen. And when we have some exercise to create a six-pointed star, and please remember, for us, it's a protection shield. And we can, after creating in the right position, then we can make it smaller in our heart center, around heart center, or we can project it anywhere. And we can hold it around our body. So the first step is please create a six-pointed star. I think it's from another teaching to spinning the space, but we don't do it. We don't suggest it to do it from at the beginning. More than that, please focus on create very beautiful six-pointed star in or around your body. And that's going to be the shield for you, protection shield for you. But sorry, but please remember, we will use this one once we reach self-realization as the vehicle.
Second question is, this is a slight tangent. It has to do with my professional work. I was wondering, are actors essentially forming elementals of their roles? Yeah. And projecting it to their audiences, giving them the invisible touch that makes everyone in the theater feel their feelings? I'm an actor, and I would love to get some tips about this. I want to consciously create these elementals and then step out of them. Yeah. You're definitely creating an elemental. And for example, let's just talk about one I know. Val Kilmer played Jim Morrison of the Doors, right? And he said he had to get into Jim Morrison. Well, what he's getting into is his understanding, which means his elementals of Jim Morrison. And he, tried to copy what he did. He's method acting. He got really into it. And he said by the time the movie was over, he couldn't wait to get out of that. Like you say, step out of it. Couldn't wait to get out of that set of elementals and change, they were just too heavy for him. So definitely you're doing it. And there is that energy that you're projecting as an actor that touches people's hearts. It resonates. It's more of a resonation. You should think of it like that. So you're trying to awaken this vibration in them by projecting your vibration in a proper way or perfect way, however you want to say it, as an actor. Mm-hmm. But that's one thing. You see, you have an actor and you've got a part of a historical figure. And so you study that person, he does this, he acted this way. And so you sort of emulate what you understand of this guy's behaviors and expression. But there's another way that this is a much better way, is if you can actually attune, instead of just working with the elemental, try to attune, concentrate, focus, see if you can attune to the real person that you're trying to portray. There's another vibration comes in with that, more than just you knowing what he did and try to imitate that. So, yeah. Aki?
Yeah. What we have to be very careful is when you perform the role of the person, the more you go in that role, and the more you attune with the vibration, automatically we attune with the group elemental, which is in us, in our subconsciousness or in the cosmic subconsciousness. It activates the mass of group elemental, which is vibrating similar way with the elemental which we create of that person or role we perform. So please, my advice is every day when you pray other personality, cleanse your bodies with 3 suns meditations every day. And please be introspective. No. And please perform that role consciously. Knowing what you are, who you are, knowing you are performing that character or expressing that elemental consciously. So my advice is perform consciously, knowing you are performing that role. Because once we attune with the vibration with the group elemental, good or bad, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it will come back to us. Once we emit, everything come back to us. And if it's not the welcomed one or negative ones, even the good ones, it will influence us. And eventually, it will dominate our personality. So we have to be very careful. We need to be neutral, especially the actors and actresses. Please cleanse your bodies, 3 bodies, each time after you're performing it, without being influenced by the character. And know and perform consciously, knowing you are performing it. That's my advice.
Next question.
Maybe you skipped one question
Nope.
in between.
Look on
She
your
asked
paper.
the second question.
Look on, I printed out what Eric sent us, and it doesn't have it on that. I don't know where you got that.
In between this and that, tuning.
Look on your paper.
This is his next question. This one.
Oh, yeah, okay. And I know you guys mentioned that the electric and magnetic ethers are out of reach, but I'm still wondering what they actually do. Did Dasclos or others mention how they were used? Well, it's just not, everything has it. Every piece of ether has these 7 natures of etheric vitality, and electromagnetic is 2 of the higher ones, okay? They're used for all kinds of things, but we as a personality don't really touch those yet. Our job is to get used to using the kinetic, the imprinted, and the aesthetic, the feeling-giving ethers. Those are associated with the 3 bodies: material body, the psychical body, and the mental body. After that, you get bestowed upon you the creative ether. And then above that, you will slowly get access to these things. But it takes a lot of purification, because this system is governed by intelligences. They don't just give matches to children to play with. Even though you read about it in a book, they're not going to let you have access to that. You have to work for it. Nothing is given to us. Everything that comes to any of these people in the spiritual system, anybody, anywhere, they have created certain causes that result in those effects. And in this situation, the cause is we're trying to uplift our awareness and raise our consciousness. And that creates an effect. And when we reach a certain level, we will be allowed to have access to them. But which I can tell you right now, here's a great way to just experience them without, knowing much or being able to do much. These chakra systems in us have electromagnetic qualities. Some are more magnetic in males, and some are more electric in females, and vice versa. But these 2 over the lungs here can reverse either way. So what you want to do is to hug somebody you really care about. And now most people hugs are 3 seconds long. But if you sit there and really go into the hug for 20 seconds, you will feel something change. You should be able to feel some electromagnetic effect in these lungs. So for example, if you're hugging a woman and her center here is more magnetic and yours is more electric, when you hug, it reverses, and yours will become more magnetic and hers is more electric. So this is part of the thing. Just try it for 20 minutes and you can feel that electromagnetic vibration exchanging between these 2 centers when you hug a person. So that's good.
Okay.
You have something?
Every question is yes, I do have one.
Oh, good.
May I?
Please.
Okay. Uh, as Daniel says, since our self-consciousness of human being, most of the human beings are not well developed enough. Like, we are still creating a war in the world. The power can be misused for the unwelcomed purpose. So we are not allowed to talk about this higher nature of ether. But so I would like to touch a little bit, slightly on that, on your question. We have four functions of ether that we train again and again. And the three higher states is actually like a nature of life. Nature of life. So when God expressed will pleasure to create the universe, to create the universes, then the movement, the will pleasure, is expressed as the movement of life, the life movement force. Then when this movement is created, immediately electricity and magnetism also created at the same time. So these are, it's more like a higher state or nature of life God. That's why we can touch it very little, not to misuse it. But the electricity and the magnetism and the life force, the movement, the three in one, that's the force. And and it's this is called kind of ethereal, which creates all other elements. So from starting with this power, nature, and lowering down, which is called ethereal. In the East, they called akasha, the highest level of ether. But it's not ether. Ether is under the ethereal. Ethereal is under the domain of logos. So in that way, lowering down, we create all the elements are created. But at the beginning, we have three states of nature of God, which is the currents, movement of life, and electricity and magnetism. Yeah.
Okay. Bernardo is asking, Bernardo, I've sent you some emails. I've tried to contact you. I don't know if you're getting them or not, but we're coming to Mexico in the first week or second week, second week in January. So, April. We'd like to meet with you. So please email me. Okay, Bernardo is asking, this system talks about our three bodies, while other systems talk about 7 or more bodies. I'm curious if you could talk a bit more about this and how they are related. In the Esoteric Teachings, the first book Daskalos wrote, he says we have 3 mundane bodies and 4 higher bodies. Mundane bodies means they're in the worlds of existence. The higher bodies are in the world of beingness. Not much can be known about those bodies because we're in the worlds of existence. So it's even hard to even conceive of a world of beingness, which is everything's one with one another. It's hard to understand that from our perspective. But then in the Christ book, he quotes Christ saying we have 7 bodies, and he names the material body, its etheric double, the psychical body, its etheric double, the noetical body, and its etheric double, the noetic body. Okay, why the difference? That's supposed to stand it very clear. 3 bodies, 3 mundane bodies, 4 higher bodies. Well, the difference is because of the perspective. The truth is, looking down from the top, those etheric doubles of the 3 lower bodies, material, psychical, and noetical, are still in the same dimension. In other words, the etheric double of the material body is in the 3rd dimension. And it's not a separate body you can use, like the psychical body. And most of the time, Daskalos just call it the etheric double. Every once in a while, he slipped and called it a body, but he definitely says over and over, it's not really a separate body. That you can go out of your material body and go to the psychical body and run around. You have to have the psychonoetic body with that to do that. And it's the same thing with the psychical body. It's of the 4th dimension. Well, it's etheric doubles of the 4th dimension too. The noetical body is the 5th dimension. It's etheric doubles of the 5th dimension too. So from our perspective, these are quite different things as we go up. And that's why the difference is told that way. So in the beginning, it's going to seem like 7 bodies counting our etheric doubles because it's a real thing. It's a double of a material body, but it itself is not a body to be used independently. So that's the 7 bodies. We say the same thing, only perhaps I never heard Dasko say it, and I don't believe that we have 12 bodies or something like that. He just gives the 7 bodies, and most systems give the 7 bodies. Aki?
What's the higher bodies?
Their bodies, they don't even name them. They could call them bodies of assimilation, bodies of life, bodies of oneness. We don't have a concept of it, but they're in the realm of beingness. And once we cross over, which is going to be a long time from now to cross into the realm of beingness, then we have those bodies to use in that state of beingness.
As Daniel mentioned, in the mundane level, we have a material body and psychical body and a noetical body with its etheric counterpart. Each body has its own etheric counterpart. Please remember that. But above it, the higher, the world of beingness, in my study, we have a noetic body. Sometimes it's called a body, but actually it's a state, noetic body, and the spirit body or causal body. We see and study these bodies, but actually these are not body. And it's called body, but it's a human form, which is everywhere. So beyond the noetic body, it's a human form which is everywhere and it's divine. Daniel mentioned a little bit in the other question. After passing through our human idea, the permanent atom is formed, and the radiation of the permanent atom is called spirit body. And the reflection of the spirit body is called noetic body. And after that, the mundane 3 bodies are created with the etheric counterpart. So please remember in that way, we have mundane 3 bodies with etheric counterpart, but beyond that we have a noetic and a spirit and a causal. But it's very difficult to distinguish because spirit body is in the causal state. So it's, we understand the body is like this.
And she's right. It's in the causal state. It's in the noetic, supernoetic, which is where? It's everywhere. This is why it's so hard to conceive a body that doesn't have a shape, yet it has the human form. It's not bodies like we think of on this side.
But we never lose this human form. We human beings never lose human form. This is what Christ called, expressed as the Son of Man. It's called the Son of Man. It's human form. In the causal state, St. Paul called it the spirit body, spiritual body.
John has a question. It says, what does Daskalos believe about satsang teachers who basically teach that practices are often unnecessary for enlightenment? Well, let me just say, I can't say what Daskalos actually believes, but I can tell you he may believe much more than I've heard him say. But he believes some are good for their people, but not for the Western man, because the practices can damage the nervous systems in India. Some they give. And he did say that most of what you find in Indian meditations just lead you round and round and round, and they're really, like you say, unnecessary. He also says many non-dual teachers today never practice anything for self-realization. Many of the realizations happened unexpectedly when they were worldly people. Did Daskalos believe in non-dual realizations like Ramana Maharshi, or for them, for example, or any of the 1,000 realized like them? Yeah, he spoke about it. He said there's no such thing. What this happens is these people have worked on it before. In the case of Ramana Maharshi, he had achieved it before. So he comes back in when it's time, it pops open. He just started going through this who am I thing, and pretty soon he realized he's the deathless spirit, drops out of high school, moves away from his family, and starts teaching in India. That wasn't just he lucked out, God favored him and not everybody else. This is something he had worked on. I was with a Hindu master who at the age of 14, same thing, basically same story. He goes away and becomes this great yogi, meditates for 23 hours a day for 8 years. He becomes this really great thing, never charged any money, and he really one of the few people that even suggested introspection. Last Ramana Maharshi, he suggested it very strongly. Who am I? Meditation. That was his trip. Then you say, I heard Paul Scorpion say Daskalos endorsed the Course in Miracles. I never heard him endorse the Course in Miracles. I've never heard him endorse any book except the New Testament and the Book of Our Own Lives. He wanted those two books for us to study. He never suggested, or I've never heard him suggested. I don't know if he said something to Paul, and I don't really know that, but he, over and over, just all through his teachings, the only books you have any evidence of him saying that is the New Testament, the Book of Our Lives. And I'd like to add another book. I think there's another book we should read. And that's the book, and we have to write it. We have to slowly over time write it. The book, our own egotism, the lies, it's told us. It tells us so many lies to dissuade us off the path. If you wrote down all these lies that you've heard that's trying to keep you on a standstill, or maybe even take you away from a higher path, that would be so revealing. If you could just look back and say, wow, these are all the things egotism, and it's true for everybody, egotism tells us to get its way, to stop us from realizing we are not the egotism. The egotism's number one job is make sure we don't realize that. That's its number one job. So, yeah, I've never heard him mention it. Okay.
Okay. I think not everyone, not all non-dual teachers are self-realized, but some of them, as Daniel said, it's not they are not unexpectedly self-realized and started teaching. It's not like that. They are already well prepared and had a contract, a promise, and their blueprint, and this incarnation. At some point of their life, this lifetime, it just unfold their plan, divine plan, and they're doing their work. This is, yeah. So it's not unexpectedly happening, and but it's it's good to know, especially now, it's good for us to realize that, oh, we are God. In most of us, each one of us, we are God. It's important to realize it. But also, we are still on the development of the self-consciousness. Our stage of our self-consciousness is still very low comparing the human being in other planet. So we need to practice according to the proper method and consciously work on it to develop our self-consciousness, or do whatever you can do, just like the sun shines unconditionally to us, to devote ourselves to express all of it. We don't need a specific practice or training, but we need to be the good person, better ourselves, day by day, better and better to other human beings. Either way, we can reshape our amorphous psychoanalytical body, proceeding our spiritual path. So we need to practice or express love to the world, to the people. We have a choice of them.
This is from Eric. My daughter Jolene continues to have severe migraines about 4 to 5 months, 4 to 5 per month. As you know, I have been working with her for years, energetically and physically. I've realized that she is going through a migraine. I tend to do many things energetically, and I feel like I may not have proper focus. I was hoping if you could help me create a specific healing elemental geared toward relieving her migraine pain. Is there a specific form, color, area of the body? How long should I concentrate? Et cetera, et cetera. Thank you. One thing you want to be careful of is you don't send energy that energizes the pain in the migraine. If she's having a migraine pain and you think strongly about her head and pain, you may be energizing what you're trying to disenergize. I'll just say that. But the larger answer, is really, Daskalos has given this. I'm just going to read it because this is the best way. Of course, as we said, the guardian angel, archangel, our guardian archangel, Jolene's guardian archangel, is from the Metatrons, and it's with her for all their life. It's a gift from God to everybody, each of us. But then Daskalos says, can we create for our beloved ones guardian angels also? Elementals strong to protect, to help them? Yes. How do you do it? Of course, you must have the skill of visualization and expressing a will, a strong will. Okay, so this is important. You must be a good visualizer to do this. You must have a certain degree of skill. You don't have to be a super expert, but you must have a certain degree of skill and visualizations to do what he's suggesting. And here's what you do. You go into a room where you won't be disturbed, and you want to do this every day at the same time, if possible. And shut the door, and you place a chair, you sit in a chair, and you place a chair near you, and you light 2 candles, one on either side, white candles. Then, with creative thought, it's just not pure imagination, it's creative thought, you are going to visualize Jolene, an elemental of Jolene. But you don't want to think or see that migraine thing in her. The person we do this for may be not too good shape physically or emotionally or whatever, but the elemental we create of them should be perfect and strong and healthy. Okay. So you see that elemental sitting there on the chair you placed in front of you, approximately the same age. Start building it. See it continually. It's resting. It's sitting in the chair there silently. Then you sit peacefully and start to breathe regularly on a 6 heartbeats in and 6 heartbeats out. It's most necessary for you to calm down completely. After you've relaxed completely, keep seeing the child sitting in the chair. You must be a master of visualization. See the elemental of the child you want to help. Immediately give that elemental of the child you want to help a name, the name of a boy or the name of a girl, to help guard and help them. In this case, you want to tell the elemental, you are called Jolene. Now, preferably when it's a boy, you see that elemental in a bluish light. If it's a girl, you see him in a rosy pink light. See that you build this elemental strong and healthy. The elemental must always be strong and healthy, as you would like to see in the person you're wanting to help, as you want to see Jolene. You want to see her free of migraines and strong and healthy and not bothered by all that anymore. Okay, then visualize it. Just keep visualizing it stronger. Now your mind's going to run away, but just be gentle. Bring your mind back to the job and keep it on there. The elemental has its eyes closed and its hands are resting on the solar plexus. So you spend 15 minutes a day doing this, right? And just sit peacefully and just see it. This visualization is the most important part of it. Now, if you're not experienced, your thoughts might go away. Insist that even if your thoughts do go away, the elemental of the child stays there in the chair. You can see it. It's better not to let your thoughts go astray, he says. But you do this for 15 minutes every day for 7 days. Do it regularly at the same time, but don't do it during the night. Do it either at dawn or noon. Make sure you won't be disturbed while you're doing this. Now, on the 8th day, call it by its name and tell that elemental to open its eyes. I know this is a very deep, strong practice, but this is something that's so helpful for the ones we're trying to help. That elemental will open its eyes. Start to talk to it and expect an answer. Dascos is giving an example to ask the elemental, do you know your name? And he says, tell it, you are Jolene in this case. In the beginning, the elemental will not speak. Maybe it'll nod its head and say, you are supposed to guard and help reduce the suffering of the person who has your name and your form. But you ask it, will you? Will you? Are you willing to protect the child that's having your name? Now, most of the time, that elemental will say yes, unless destiny does not allow it. In this case, the elemental will dissolve. But then Dasclos added, he's never had that happen. They always say yes for him. Once it says yes, give it your orders. You will be in the boy or girl sometimes, but not always. And you will be outside standing by their bedside or standing around the child. But you will never interfere with its personality. Now, this is such an important part because sometimes we have the idea we know what's best for other people and we try to send that to them or even visualize it. And it's really, we shouldn't do it that way. You will always guard your this basically what you're doing is you're implanting a programming in the elemental to do what you want. And you will never interfere with the personality. You will always guard and help the child and always impress the child with your thinking to avoid certain things, but without interfering with the personality. You will guard that child from physical dangers and suffering if God permits. These are the orders you will give. Do that for 3 days. So on the 8th day, we start to awaken the elemental and give it its instructions. So you do those orders for 3 days. I insist you must have the 2 candles lit left and right of the chair every day. We have the 10 days, 7 with the elemental just sitting there in the 3 of the instructions. Sometimes he makes it longer, but 10 it's good. If you're strong in your visualization, you can talk to it and receive answers in your language because it's a living elemental. Tell it, go now. Alleviate the child's suffering. If the child is in danger, come to me and warn me. And you will see the elemental gets up and leaves the chair and goes. If the door is not open, it will pass right through the door. Physical things are not an obstacle. Very often that elemental will come to you and tell you things. If you're not an expert to speak with it and get the reply, then you will get the impression of what the elemental wants you to know. In the beginning, this happens instinctually until you gain the ability to control it. We should never use force, but suggestion, so that the other one can accept it or drop it. So in other words, you're not using force. That elemental is not forcing something on there. It's suggesting something in case of trying to guide them. In this case, it's just trying to alleviate the pain. We should never use force on anybody, even if we think it's for his or her good. All people have to learn their own lessons. We should love and send love, but we should not dominating. Dominating is evil, even if it's done for the sake of good. Instead, we should suggest things. Something else. We should never send anything to anybody unless we've loaded it with love and blessings. And this is true of not only the elemental, but just your thoughts, a letter, an email. Always put some love and blessings in there, is what he's advising us. Now, that's going to make us go kind of long, but that is the instructions he gave for this.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, thank you, Daniel. This is a beautiful exercise and it's very practical and efficient. I made a lot of protecting angels for my beloved ones. So please try, Eric, please try. But from my side, since he introduced a very good exercise for you, I have a question for you. Knowing we know each other many years and we know about Jolene, knowing all your sincere effort healing her, I have a question for you. Please investigate and check your subconsciousness. If you have a strong image or thought, she is sick. She has something to be healed. Don't you have one at the base, very base? Please introspect deeper and deeper in you. When healing happens, we don't need that image. That image will influence opposite way. What we need to visualize is her perfect image. Her condition is completely recovered. She is smiling, happy, like angel we create. And originally, in her, God and her, and she is perfect. For some reason, she is working on her work. That's why this symptom is expressed. But please imprint in you. She is perfect. And she deserves for being healed. Please create this image strongly. And please watch out your word or way of thinking about her. And then that energy goes to her, especially your daughter. Your daughter observe how you feel, how you think, how you behave about her. Like a sponge. She's absorbing like a sponge. So please withdraw in yourself and implant her perfect image. And after cleansing in yourself about illness about her, then try new method, like this exercise. Create a protecting angel. that's going to work. Nobody can guarantee because for some reason your daughter is working on this, but the illness won't last forever because she's originally perfect. Please imprint this principle, and one day she will be recovered, healed. It might be next moment, tomorrow, or it might be in the next incarnation. Nobody knows. But what we do as our healing work is to create perfect image. The image, she is already healed. She is perfect. Nothing to be healed or nothing is lacking in her. This step is very important. Please try. I want to add one more thing. But when, as a human being, whatever we try, if the result doesn't come, we feel very kind of depressed and discouraged. Teaching says, in this case, when we feel that way, I'm talking about you, your family and herself. Please go to the one of the 7 promise, number 4. Endure patiently without complaining all forms of trials and tribulations, which perfect divine love bestow upon us. So, if you can't find a reason, and if you feel so discouraged, whatever, regardless of effort, there is some reason, why it's happening still now. So hold in your heart the 4th promise and keep your effort. But the visualization of the perfect image of her is so important because she is so. That will be done.
We have a question from Ian that's going to be a very, it's a strong question. He's saying, I'm struggling to understand how, for example, Putin's actions are part of the divine plan. Well, it's going to take a paradigm shift. Right now, your paradigm is basically been created by the mainstream media. Okay? So we're thinking Ukraine's good, Russia's bad. Okay. They created that image. What happened in World War II? People in the West got together to knock out the Nazis. Well, we beat the German army, but we didn't kill the Nazis. And I'm not talking about neo-Nazis, the skinheads in America. I'm talking about Nazis. The Ukrainian have Nazi divisions. They wear the same black sun that Hitler's people did. They call themselves children of the black sun. They use the Nazi, what they call them, Secret Service, but it wasn't Secret Service, the Nazi SS soldiers, because it was 2 lightning bolts was striking. If you look on their armor, on their military clothing, they're wearing Nazi symbols. They call themselves the Azov division, the toughest one. So, is Nazis good or Nazis bad? Well, you don't know that the Ukrainian people are really the stronghold of this Nazi movement still. And I won't get into all that. It's too early to talk about it, but it's going to be revealed. It'll come out to through the normal thing. But right now, it's being hidden because the United States, NATO, and England are in a proxy war against Russia, and they're pushing the Ukrainian fighters into that battle for us. But we're really fighting them. We sent them what, $200 billion to fight? Wouldn't that have been better to send for healthcare in our country, or just something good instead of just shooting each other and killing each other? When the truth comes out about this, your paradigm is going to shift of what's really going on, and you might turn around and say, "Wow, Putin is the good guy, and this Zelensky is the bad guy." I'm not telling you to think that. I'm just saying you can do your own research. You should, but when it comes out, it's all about paradigm shifts. And let me give you a good example of a paradigm shift. There was this good writer, and he wrote about sort of spiritual, psychological things. And one day he's on a subway in New York City, and the subway stops at the station where there's a hospital close by. And a guy gets on the train, and he has three little kids, and they're just tearing up and making noise and disturbing passengers, and he's staring down at the floor. So this writer, he looks at me and says, "Well, this guy's a jerk. He's not taking care of his kids. His kids are disturbing people." So he decides to speak, and he says, "Look, Mister, your kids are control your kids. They're harming people. They're poking people, disturbing people." And the guy looks up and he goes, "Oh, I'm sorry. We just came from my hospital. My wife has just died." So immediately the writer's perspective changed. Now the paradigm shift's happening. Oh, it's not because he's negligent. It's because he's depressed and suffering from that experience. There's a lot of things going on right now in the world that is just almost what's being sold to us is the very opposite of what it is. And we'll leave it there for that for now. Now, of course, the spirit soul, nothing wrong with his spirit soul, Putin. And Putin is doing something. He's doing something for the greater good, but you won't see it yet. Now, yeah, but everything's part of divine plan. Even when we see people hurting other people terribly, it's completely wrong. That person had, it's like Daskos was mentioning, may have had the destiny to be hurt, to be abused, to whatever it is, because we don't get out of this for free. It's the law of cause and effect controls everything. So even when we see someone suffering, we should consider the law of cause and effect. And Daskos' advice is, when you see someone really be harmed by somebody else, don't feel sorry for the victim. Feel sorry for the criminal, because they're going to get a tremendous result back. You have something? On Putin? Cool.
He says his own opinion, his way of understanding. But killing people, killing each other, destroying each other, of course, it's not good. But we are watching the news in this country or other Europe, the country, but they might have a different perspective in Russia. So what I wanted to say now is whatever happened as the phenomenon in this dimension, which seems like fighting each other or opposing each other, making a crash or a huge disharmony each other, we really have to observe and discern and find the truth all behind of the phenomenon. We are watching a major news or whatever news which we trust and we think it's the truth. But in this world, they might have the different perspective. Our way of watching the news might be truth, but it might not be truth. So now we are living, especially now we are living in this kind of period. So, for example, even the history which we studied in the school when we were a child, nowadays more and more new discoveries occurred, and all kind of history or year which we learned that was the truth was renewed, updated. It was not like that. Like that way, we really need to train to see the truth through our own intuition and research. So whatever happened in this dimension seems like opposing each other. If it is possible, please investigate both sides, not the one side, the both side, and introspect, meditate on it, and find your own answer. It's very risky to go rush into this side or that side because it's a trick of this world. It's a law of this world. We are living and existing in the world of duality, but the world or state which we are aiming is one word. I mean, I should say oneness, not one word, oneness. Beyond those duality, which means this is the important part. What we call evil or demon or shadow or whatever, it's all in the divine plan. Nothing can escape from divine plan because divine plan is oneness. God creates everything in Him, everything in Him. The demon thinks they are separated from God, but actually they are in the divine plan. So let's be wise and discern what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is not good. That's our perception. Same things, same principle happen in our daily life, like a couple. If a man and woman, the couple, the man is expressive and the people trust what he says, but nobody knows the other woman's side. So we have to ask and see the both side and have our own decision to see things, possibly integrating both sides and stay in the neutral point. This is my advice.
Well, we definitely live in a time of a prevalence of falsehood, but that falsehood will eventually be revealed. As Christ said, nothing is hidden that won't be revealed. So I think we're all about to find out more about this issue. Now, Vios is the last question, and he's asking, Vios? Can you say something about the common selfhood?
Mm.
Now, this is a real important part of the teaching.
Mm.
Christ says, I am in you, and you are in me. Well, think of the common selfhood. You hear about the body of Christ, right? Well, what's our body? It's one body, but it's made up of a number, just an infinite number of, 24 trillion, I don't know, cells, individual cells that each has their own work. They each have their own thing. So, but we don't think of our body as being multiple. We think of it as one, but it's composed of a bunch of individual cells. In the same way, the common self, the Christ selfhood, is composed of individual cells. And as a self-awareness, we are like a cell in that body. As a consciousness, we are like a cell in that body. Now, the whole point is to make our little cell not a stain in Christ's body, with our negativities, fears, anxieties. We want to be a bright, shining light in that body. But that's the truth of it. We don't really quite see it this way because, again, we're in the separate world of separations. The world's a separation. And this is in the realm of beingness and oneness. But we are all partake in this common selfhood.
Okay. Yeah, this is a beautiful question. Please imagine the common selfhood is like center number 2, not here, the holy monad. In this dimension, we are living like a feeling we are separated, each person is separated. But when we ascend more and more to the light, we feel like there's no border between us. Knowing who we are, what we are. We know who we are, what we are, because we have I-ness in our present day personality, and we have I-ness in our psychoanalytical body. We have the I-ness in the permanent personality. We have I-ness in the pure soul. We have I-ness in the ultimate stage as God, as a soul, spirit, at the end, spirit. But this I-ness penetrates all levels. But the I-ness is I-ness. So we know who we are, what we are. But the condition or state will be different when we ascend. No. We have a self in the lowest level here. When we ascend, we feel like there is no border. It's just like an ocean. Just visualize the beautiful, huge ocean of golden light. And we are tiny little drop of the ocean. But this drop of ocean don't go other way. Ocean, it's always part of the ocean. You've never seen one drop of ocean is popping up, in a separate place. It's always in the ocean. But this drop knows what we are, what we are. Knowing that we are one with others as one big golden ocean of life. This is gonna happen. What we call it the common selfhood. The self feeling separately, and more ascend, we feel together with all others. And ultimately, we are one common selfhood, which is love. Beautiful.
And I think this is also what Christ is speaking to when he says, love your neighbor as yourself, not less than yourself, but as yourself. And the Greeks say that because the neighbor is yourself. And that was super hard for them to understand 2,000 years ago. It's hard for us to understand today, but it's ultimately the truth.
Yes.
So what you do to another, you do to yourself. That's another thing. Well, that's because the law of cause and effect is going to knock it back to you, whatever you give out. If you say something beautiful coming back. If you say something horrible, it's going to echo back. So we're all in this together. And where one of us goes, we all go, ultimately speaking.
Yeah, he said very good things in the Christ word, love neighbors, as your own self. Self means our self, divine self. If, as a divine self, we are the one. So he is me, Bios, you are me. This kind of state naturally happens. So by loving the neighbors or whoever, it's gonna be it's gonna it's gonna make us attune with this principle. So please try in your daily life to love your neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a long one. Sorry, guys. But it was really important to get that guardian angel exercise out to everybody because it's really a very useful, powerful thing. And thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you
for your questions.
all of your questions.
See you next
Beautiful
time.
question. Have a beautiful life.